When does a period lead to shame, disgrace, and even death? My guest today on Lady Shayo Speaks is going to discuss issues around women's health and how both organizations and employees can provide the necessary support. So about a week ago, I made a post on my LinkedIn channel, and I'll put the link under this video, about an incident that happened in Kenya. A young girl committed suicide because she was period shamed. And then a senator, a Kenyan senator, also made a very bold statement by, wearing a stained dress to work. And she was asked to go home and she refused because she wanted to make that statement that we need to start the discussion around periods, and organizations and schools, public bodies generally need to provide better support to women and girls during their periods. So today's discussion is going to take a look at how organizations can support women. We're going to look at this issue of periods and period shaming and other health issues, pregnancy, taking leave. How can organizations support women better? Because these are natural phenomena, and women shouldn't be made to, shouldn't be less or worse off because of these natural occurrences. How can organizations provide that needed support to women? And you as an employee, whether you're a man or a woman, what can you do and how can you participate in that discussion? So my guest today is going to have a deep dive into these issues and more. Welcome to Lady Shayo Speaks. And today my guest, Mrs. Dunamis Adebayo, is going to discuss issues around supporting women in the workplace. We all know that this is March, and I like to call this month the Women's Month because we have a lot of things that celebrate women. We've got the International Women's Day coming up very soon, and also Mother's Day for some people. So, Mrs. Adebayo, welcome to Lady Shayo Speaks.
Thank you so much, Lady Shayo, for having me.
Okay, so as I usually do, I'm going to quickly read your profile and we can, jump into the discussion. So, Adebayo Dunamis, and I love that name, Dunamis. I mean, you know what it means? It means dynamite. But, this dynamite is small but mighty. She's a bilingual, passionate public speaker and an unapologetic family enthusiast. That's nice to know. She's professionally a trained international cross-cultural human resource specialist and a resource development consultant with special interest in leadership, monitoring and evaluation, environmental sustainability, and conscientious work ethics through community service. She partners at IEJ Consulting as the head of cross-culture and knowledge CAP unit. She has a Bachelor's of Arts in French from a first-generation university in Nigeria, Ulefron. That's not the name of the university, but I'm just planning around here. A PGD in French literature from Sorbonne in France, and MSc in International HR from a prestigious university in the United Kingdom. And she is in view of an MPhil PhD in managerial psychology. Wow, that is a lot. She was the first female public relations officer at Obafemi Awolowo University at postgraduate level. And she was the first recipient of the Good Samaritan Award in 2006 from the French language village Badagry, Nigeria. She daily works towards being one of the formidable stakeholders in the educational sector in Nigeria. Her guiding principles are, but not limited to, conscientiousness, loyalty, and trustworthiness. Wow, that's really nice to know. So, Dunamis, thank you once again for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me, Lady Shayo.
Right, and as I usually do to all my guests, I like to ask them to tell us one thing about them that is not in their profile.
Okay, so I'm a very formidable public speaker like you have read. But in addition to that, the social aspect of that is an anchor event. So when you see me as an MC, I'll be worried when not they worry. I know they speak English. Now what they talk.
Okay, that's interesting. An MC. Wow. Okay, that's good. Now let's get into the discussion for today. We're talking about how organizations can support women in the workplace. And there's been a lot of change. The discussion has been started, but we still have a lot of way to go. We still have challenges where women don't always get the same pay as their male counterparts on the same level. And there's also a lot of discussion about women's health in the workplace. I'm sure you saw my post on LinkedIn. I posted a couple of days ago about a Kenyan senator who had a mishap with her period. And, she said that she knew before she even got to the Senate that day. She knew before she got to the house, but she said that because there was a suicide incident, a young girl, a secondary school girl, I think, committed suicide because she had been period shamed. And so this senator, I can't recall her name now, she wanted to make a statement and she went ahead and walked boldly, confidently into the house with a stained dress. Honestly, I have to give her credit for boldness and courage. I do not think I would have been able to do that. So I'm just going to ask you, what are your thoughts about what the senator had to say about period shaming, period poverty, and among young girls, and more importantly, in the workplace?
Okay, thank you so much for the opportunity once again to speak. And may I also commend the fact that you are lending your voice to this major aspect of the discussion. And it's very important to note that this is a planned discussion. So thank you once again for being for spearheading this, for amplifying it. It's very important. So as regards the senator, I think the best way she could identify with that young girl was just to go in unapologetically into the house. Okay, yeah, a lot of people had different opinions about that. But again, she had to stand on the fact that if she comes to that in a particular way, then there was no reason why a girl would have been shamed by a teacher. Yeah, there are antithetical views to what happened at the school. When I read the story, I must confess to you, I was emotional about it. Emotional mixed feelings. Yeah, with mixed feelings, because it is supposed to be a major sign of femininity and fertility. It's a good thing. Instead of she being shamed, I'm talking about the students now. She's supposed to be celebrated. I mean, I believe when I was a teenager, when I was a teenager, I knew what my mom said to me, how she celebrated me, how she made me believe that those first 5 days and the likes were very special and everything. So the senator, coming back to the senator, she was woman enough to condescend to the level of a girl. Somebody who could have made a mistake. Yeah. Someone who could have fallen prey of a mixed date on the lender. So
we all have that. You were planning on this and then it shows up on.
Oh, yeah. And like you said, may I announce very publicly, because I know people know this already, but I come now from the angle of this, that most when the female employee is overworked, there is a possibility for the dates to change on the calendar. Because it's proven that stress can get a woman to see.
Stress can, change, affect you.
Yeah, it can change things. So I see, whilst I don't want to sound like we're ridiculing the males or making think that salaries must be over and everything, I think there's commendably a woman that's contributed meaningfully to the growth, the performance, progression, organization. I think they should really, really be appreciated. And there is a lot that the HR specialist can do in such organization. There is lots that the teacher in the school can do. There's a lot that policy, formulators can do to help make this or make life better for that girl child, better for that teenager, better for that woman,
for the women
and
in the workplace.
Ultimately, even the women in the workplace. That's it.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you for that. So now I'm still on the issue of periods, so to say. I'm going back to women in the workplace and the issue of periods. when we were growing up, we were told, you must keep yourself. Nobody must know that you're going through a period. Even when you're in pain or discomfort, you have to like put on a bold face. It was like considered something very secretive and personal and private. Even the men around us. Now, I know that a lot of men probably knew what was happening. Apparently, I discovered that some men actually keep dates. They know that when this madam is doing her face like this, what date is it? Oh, today is 15. She's going through, just leave her alone. It was, I was amazed that men actually are keeping dates of women's period so that they know how to deal with us during that period. So while we were thinking that, oh, nobody knows what's going on, these guys knew everything that was going
Exactly.
but nobody said anything about it because, it was like, but like you said, it's part of our productivity. If a woman is pregnant now, everybody's doting around her, making her comfortable, making her feel all right. But when you're having a period, it's like, it's the opposite reaction. I think that periods should also be treated the same way we treat pregnancies because they go hand in hand now. You can't have a pregnancy without the period. So, what are your thoughts, and how do you think organizations can begin to, provide better support to women during this period, during that time of the month?
Okay, so again, I'm going to pick up majorly from what you said earlier before the organizations are not, they're 100% charitable organizations. Most of them are particular about profiteering, which is not bad. It's part of what birthed the organization, but what initiate, the process, owning something, a business and the likes. So be that as it may, it's very important for us to know that there can be some the period as excuses to being off work. Okay, so that antithetical view, like I said, there is usually an antithetical view to everything we want to talk about. So I am particular now as a HR specialist. I'm particular about the fact that the wellness, the well-being of that staff, particularly all the staff members and uniquely female staff, female employees, it's key, it's pivotal. I believe it's been proven, researches are ongoing on the reality that women turn over better than men when it comes to profitability and progression at the organization. As a matter of fact, some ongoing researchers, they posit that when women are the helms of affair, there is a possibility for better attraction, and better visibility. Okay, so all of this, then do if you're smart, you want to do everything possible to ensuring that such talent, such persons are not lost. You want to try to get everything comfortable for them to be able to work, and considerably enjoy the workspace. I mean, come to think of it, if somebody is spending over 7 hours, 8 hours every day, consistently for years within an organization, we better take it on that such a person deserves a bit of comfort. And there is nothing like being too comfortable. We must remove the intensifiers of saying they are too comfortable or this or using this as excuses. So even as a HR specialist, when you notice that somebody is trying to be mischievous with the periods they're trying to just play around, you can manage it. Oh, yes, those are part of the antithetical views where people can just come up and say, okay, today, mine comes every two weeks or something. It's okay. But you see, you can still manage that. When they feel that there are some things that are going to be missed, then they want to take dressing. But you just don't want to make them feel that that's a minus. It's never a minus. I see it as, it's a good thing to celebrate. Like you said, we should celebrate them. And permits me to please quickly say this. I think we should remove all euphemisms about the period. A lot of people call it different names. The shack is coming, my grandmother, my late auntie. No, call it what it is. And in my opinion, I think it's because people are less sensitized and educated. That's why they just want to euphemize, the reality of what it is. Just let's take it out. Call it what it is. Yes, my temperature is rising because I am this and that for this moment. I'm going to take up my work, when I come back. And what's impossible in making some comforting opportunities be at the office. It doesn't cost much. It's part of the well-being of the staff members.
Okay, so like you said, I think we should look at starting these conversations from the family, because when I was growing up, I have sisters and I have brothers. And because of that secrecy around periods, so the boys don't even, I mean, they're not, you don't sit a boy down and tell him that girls have periods. They kind of find out somewhere along the line. But the girls are the people you sit down and tell them to keep themselves and try to teach them hygiene and all of that. And I remember there was a particular day my younger sister was trying to tell my mom that she needed a pad. And she was busy doing all this sign language and trying to pretend that, my brothers were sitting down and she was doing all this sign language, trying to signal my mom, like, where did you put the pads? And at a point, my brother just said, I beg, we know what you want. You want pads. Ask mommy to give you the pads. And, So I think if we start the conversations from home, both the boys and the girls need to understand what it is, and they also need to understand how to respond. So the girl needs to know how, what it is and how to take care of herself. But the boys should also know that this is a natural phenomenon, and they should know how to respond, when women around them are going through that period, so that, it's not, we kind of alienate it. Now, still on the issue, some organizations have engaged what we call a period dignity officer. And I remember that I think one company somewhere in Scotland, they actually hired a man, and it caused a lot of uproar. And ladies were like, how can you hire a man for a period as a period dignity? There is no way I'm going to be discussing my period with a man. Now, again, what are your thoughts to that? Should companies hire, companies maybe that have a large number of women, for example, should they hire a period dignity officer? And if they should does it matter what gender this person is?
Okay, so you see why I said that usually there are antithetical views to everything we want to talk about. And everyone should be sensitized. Then we shouldn't bother whoever it is that is the gender special that is in charge of the dignity and period, maybe coordinator or something. We shouldn't bother. May I announce to you proudly that whilst I worked as an expatriate in one of the sub-Saharan African countries, Francophone, as a matter of fact, my direct manager was a male, and every time I'd had to take some, at least 1 or 2 days off because of that, I found it even more easy to discuss with him. It has a lot to do with the personality, not just gender. It doesn't matter to me if it's a male or a female. It's the personality. Is this person considerable? Is this person conscientious? Okay, if this person has some kind of orientation you could call healthy, as a matter of fact, yeah, I don't think there's going to be any problem discussing with such a person.
So it's the person, not the gender. Okay, now finally on this issue, I'd like to talk about pregnancy also in the office. So we all know that as women, pregnancy and the women, it can go either way. You could have a first pregnancy and everything is fine. You're in your office every day doing your work as normal. And you could have another pregnancy and from day one, you're probably on bed rest, or it's just a difficult time and you're not, your best. So you can't really put your best into work. Now, I've seen all sorts of policies from different organizations. I've seen some very friendly policies where the women have, they're allowed to go on leave. Some organizations say that they will pay you 6 months full salary, or maybe 3 months half salary, or maybe another 6 months half salary, depending. I've seen some organizations that once they hear that you are pregnant, they put you on compulsory leave without pay. They put you on compulsory leave. So women in such organizations are always dodging and hiding and trying to work in the field so that they don't get caught. Once the managers or the people in charge find out that you're pregnant, they just tell HR and then they put you on compulsory leave without pay. And, so there are so many policies and arguments around it. So on the side of the workers, yes, we do need to give them support and help them because like you said, it's another natural phenomenon. And then there's also the aftercare. So the woman comes back from pregnancy and she does nursing mother. You close, get an extra hour, whether you start coming a bit later or you close a bit earlier, depending on what's convenient for you and all of that.
Yeah.
But we also understand that, like you said, organizations are not charitable. I mean, they're not Father Christmas now. They are profit oriented. So how do you, for example, a startup? I have a friend who has a startup, and she employed 2, 3 women, and you can imagine 3 of them went on maternity leave. The business almost ground to a halt, and she couldn't afford to hire other people. So would you say that this person shouldn't hire women? No. So, I mean, what are your thoughts from the HR perspective, to support women on the one hand, but also keep the business profitable on the other?
Okay, so thank you so much once again for this angle. I think reasonably, COVID has helped us to address subtly something like that. Why? Because in the COVID period, almost everyone had to work from home. And uniquely, we realized that overhead costs reduced drastically. And today, even some organizations are not ready to come back fully, physical operations. They want to continue with the virtual. So I'm going to leave up to relevance. Are they going to be relevant to the job? If they're going to be relevant to the job, you could get them to work even for. Like I said, the COVID period has helped us to have some kind of soft landing when it comes to things like this. So again, it's possible an employee, I'm being pragmatic here, could be mischievous with maybe the period of pregnancy, leave and everything. But again, as an HR specialist, you also have to look ways to checkmating that, not being brutish, humanistic views that would them see that there are going to be consequent management about of their maybe some of idiosyncrasy. But again, we are not allowed to only corporate see an excuse, because I mean we have different morphological variations. A woman may be pregnant every other year. Maybe she didn't even run for it. You don't want to give her any form of psychological stress or strain. Yeah. But again, you can help us see reasonably how she still be relevant even to the organization without you running at a loss. Okay, so I think you can manage. And a lot of discussion will come in aspect of orientation. Yeah, there is somebody package. You just get to them see how they could also manage themselves. And you can be there for them when you make them feel that, okay, when you're pregnant, postnatal, and all of those, you're not a minus to the organization. When you remain relevant, from your point of delivery, I think that can work.
Okay, so thankfully we have working from home, so that's really a help for those that actually can do their work from home. It allows for a larger level of flexibility, and so women can actually literally go back to work a lot earlier after having a baby, because they can do part of the work from home and still, spend quality time with their babies. And for some organizations, they have daycares within the company. So women do get to bring the babies to work when they do physically go back to work for such organizations. But unfortunately, it's not everybody that has that. But if you are lucky to get a company, that has that kind of facility, it's really a great help. It's really a great help. Yeah. So we're still talking about supporting women in the organization. An offshoot of this whole pregnancy conversation is some women have complained that when they come back to work, they don't have a job anymore. Their duties have been, reassigned to other people, and they kind of feel left out. And that can bring some psychological, concern to them, because if you come back to work and you don't have a job, you might feel that this people might just sack me because I don't have anything doing. What's your advice from the HR perspective to the organizations? And for the employee, what should an employee do if she finds herself in that situation?
So yes, very directly, I'm going to take it on straight from the angle of employee. You must know that you have rights. There's what we call employee rights. Oh yes. Okay. Again, I like to reiterate that employees have rights. Okay. And there is such a thing as psychological contracts, which affords the organization, to be responsive to the employee, because they employ the person for a particular designation. So such a person must be engaged. That's as employee engagement. On the psychological contract, you must be engaged. You cannot be redundant. You cannot just be let, maybe because you went on maternity leave and you're just left that way. No way. You have to be engaged. They owe you that right, and you get to scale up or to escalating if you think that anything otherwise has been done to you as an employee. Unfortunately, and that's not just limited to us in Africa, even in Europe, sometimes and most times, employees get to be scared. They don't think they have the opportunity of scaling up or escalating when they feel marginalized. And that's because they are not well sensitized. So an HR specialist do. Part of the onboarding package is to explain in details, what they gain as employees in such organizations. And one of it, majorly, is psychological contracts. Thank you.
Okay, so I think also from the employee, from what you're saying, I think at the point of starting a new job, these are questions you need to ask. What would happen? What's the pregnancy policy? What's the leave policy? If I'm sick, what's the policy? And all of that. Even the periods. If I'm having my period, what's the policy?
Oh, yeah.
What's the policy? I think if we start asking these questions, organizations will be, more encouraged to have policies around all of this. Okay. Right. So it's been a very interesting discussion supporting the women in the workplace. We've talked a lot about health and the issues of health around women health and safety within the workplace. And we have talked about how some of these things start from the home, educating children, both men and women, about these things so that they don't seem strange to men when they see their fellow women going through any of these issues. And I think they'll be more open to providing the necessary support to them, individuals. So it's been a very interesting discussion. Before our time, finally runs out, what would be your last advice to both men and women within the organization and, of course, the employers of labor?
Okay, thank you. So as a cross-cultural consultant, I would like to leave up my signature from the angle of culture. There's a culture surrounding menstruation period and everything. And if it must be just reviewed and looked into, it will happen with both men and women. It's not supposed to be left alone to women. I mean, when the young girl in Kenya wrote a suicide note, I was wondering, what was the discussion at home with her? What did the parents say to her? I felt so emotional. It was a needless death. If someone had sensitized her, and it's both male and female. Enough is enough. Relinquishing such cultural reviews only to women. No, we together. Culture is holistic, and it's supposed to be helpful to progressively moving for an identity. Nothing should be left only, even to a sect, to the women. It's both ways. If it will be addressed, both ways it will be addressed. Thank you very much.
So culture, like I said, when I was growing up, the culture was that men shouldn't be part of the discussion at all. So I think going back to the families and revisiting the cultural issues around periods, those cultural norms that are not helpful in this case. These need to be, the mindset needs to change, and we need to embrace it because it's part of our lives. It's a normal phenomenon. It's like breathing anyway. So it shouldn't be something that is considered to be a taboo or forbidden or anything. Visiting the culture, and that will automatically cascade into the organization. Thank you so much, Dunamis, for being on the show. It's been a pleasure, and your thoughts and insights on this matter have been very helpful, and I'm sure all my viewers will, find your advice most helpful. So this is it from us today on Lady Shayo Speaks. Please remember to like the video, share it, and subscribe to my channel. Until I see you next time. Bye.
Thank you so much, Lady Shayo. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.